Good evening, this is Jim AF3Z, Alpha Foxtrot 3 Zulu, and I will be the host for the 985 Workbench this evening. Welcome to everybody out there, and encourage anybody, all licensed amateurs, to check in with us tonight. Newcomers are certainly welcome. The 985 Workbench meets here on 146.985 megahertz every Monday evening at 8 p.m. And to access the repeater, you want to use a squelch tone of PL tone of 100 hertz. 100 hertz allows you to get into the repeater. And if you use tone squelch on receive, that tone is 94.8 hertz, so they are different. PL is 100 hertz. Squelch tone 94.8 hertz. And I am located out a few miles west near Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, and glad to be the host here tonight. Take a look at the repeater website located at www.w3GMSrepeater.com. www.w3GMSrepeater.com. Lots of information there, articles, pictures, repeater etiquette, history, all kinds of good stuff, so check that out. Please be aware that on occasion the repeater experiences intermod interference. Basically you'll hear some funny things on the end of the squelch tail after somebody. And at times, those of us with weaker signals will get totally kept out of the repeater, blocked out, and it can make signals very noisy. So if that happens, we'll try to mention that so you're sure what's going on. And I am one that can have that interference wipe me out since I'm so far out. So one thing that helps is be sure to be running maximum power and or be prepared to check in through a digital mode, Echolink or All-Star. We want to be able to hear you, and those things the digital modes get through, the intermod does not affect them. One thing you need to know, though, is to be able to use Echolink and All-Star on 985, you need to register with the repeater group. So the directions for doing so can be found again on the website, W3GMSrepeater.com. Also, when the intermod is present, before you start making a transmission, it's good to just ask quickly, especially if you know you may be farther out or like running an HT or something. Just ask quickly if you're getting through okay, and then I will be glad as net control to confirm that. And just as a demonstration, I'll make sure I'm getting through. Let me see. Ron, W3VEE, are you there, and am I getting through okay?
WRFG, hearing you very good and clear tonight.
Alright, I'm not sure what that means. Anybody listening to the repeater, can you hear me now? This is AF3Z.
Doing fine, Jim, NA3CW.
Hey, thank you, Chuck. I've got the computer here on Echolink, and it's acting like I'm getting through, but alright, thank you very much, Chuck, appreciate it. So, that's intermod. Or that isn't it, but there's some procedures when we do have it. On the workbench, we focus on answering general questions of radio theory and operation. In addition, we invite each station at the beginning of the net here to briefly comment on your amateur radio activity in the past week. So in a few minutes, we will do that. So when you're checking in, and I'll do check-ins in a minute here. Sorry, my mind is getting mixed up. When checking in, if you have a question that you would like to put before the group tonight, please just indicate during that time, saying, I have a question or don't have a question, and I'll keep track of that. And then when we get to the question portion, I will call on you to state your question, and we'll see if other stations here want to speak to that question. So as you're checking in, please write down the call of the station that checks in right after you. And you might want to make a list of everybody. That works well. But at least write down the station that checks in right after you. Because during the opening section where we ask for everybody's comments, you'll be able to turn it over then to the next station that follows you up. So in a few moments we will start with that. And again, just asking for brief comments on what you've been doing in the past week. Then, following that roundtable section, then we will go to the question part, and I will call on the stations that indicated they had a question. And one thing during that section, we will operate as a directed net, which means please wait to be recognized by me before beginning a transmission. This helps us handle the questions efficiently and keep the net running smoothly. At times it helps for two stations when we're talking about a question to sort of go back and forth between each other to help clarify the situation or pass information that will help us answer the question. So feel free to do that as needed. And then once you've finished that exchange, please do pass it back to me as net control. Something else, don't be too quick to talk. And that doesn't mean, I can't think of the right word, it doesn't mean that you need to not say things. What it means is when you're going to speak, pause a couple seconds before hitting the press to talk switch, PTT. It's good repeater etiquette, leave some space for people to break in when they need to. And also, those on Echolink and All-Star have added delays involved in what they hear. And it gives them especially a better chance of being able to break when they need to do so. So when you click the press to talk button, wait a couple seconds before you do that. And once you do press the press to talk switch, wait a second before it's talking because the repeater needs a moment to process your PLL tone. I am really messing up here tonight. Yes. So, and there's a 3-minute timer on the repeater. So as I just did, from time to time, just let it up on the mic button, and then you can click again. That just helps reset the timer on the repeater so it doesn't time out on you. When it does time out, you don't get in anymore, and none of else can break in, and so we just all have to wait till you let go of the press to talk switch. So every 2 to 3 minutes, I'll let off on it there. So thanks to everybody who does function as a host, and if anybody else out there would be interested, want to learn more, or hopefully try hosting the Workbench, contact myself, Jim AF3Z, or any of us here of the net controls, and we'll help you get started. There's information to help you do it. And just a reminder, on Thursday at 8 p.m., here on the repeater is the 985 roundtable, which is kind of a rag chew net. So I hope you can join us for that sometime. Like this, it's at 8 p.m., and that one is on Thursday evenings. So we will get to finally taking check-ins here. And remember, when you are checking in, if you have a question for the group, please just state that you do have a question when you check in. So I'm going to begin with digital stations. And I will try to leave plenty of spaces in between for you all to get checked in. So digital stations using Echolink or All-Star. I want to check into the 985 Workbench tonight. Please call now. This is Jim AF3Z.
This is W1RC, Marblehead, Massachusetts, checking in. I do not have any questions for the Workbench, but if I can answer anything, I will be here.
This is KN3I, no questions. Whiskey 8, Charlie Romeo Whiskey, CR, no question.
All right, let me break in here. This is AF3Z. I got 3 stations, and then we had a good bit of noise. I don't know if somebody was, what was going on there. I'll just say that. W1RC, Mr. Mike, welcome aboard. Thank you. John, KN3I, and CRW8CRW. If there was a station after those 3 checking in, I want to try again, but we just heard a good bit of noise, no audio as far as a voice. So go ahead and try again if you're trying to get in here.
I think they're transmitting digitally.
Hey, Jim, this is Ron, W3GMS. Agree with John. That sounds like it might be there on System Fusion instead of on analog FM. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yes, it does sound like digital something, though I can't copy that in my head. All right, thank you, guys. If you are trying to check in on digital, we are not set up for digital here, so you need to use good old FM or Echolink or All-Star. So, pause again for that station or any other stations wishing to check in on the digital side of things, but not Fusion. This is AF3Z. Call now. Okay, not hearing. I never thought about that side of saying digital stations before. Something new for my brain to remember. All right, any other stations now? RF stations coming in by RF and or other digital stations. Wishing to check into the 985 Workbench, please call now.
The Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo. I do have a question, and that station was very strong on the input over here in Westchester.
C3RFG, Jim and Malvern, no questions.
FF, no questions.
A3 Fox Tango, WA3KFT.
Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India. That's KD3PPI. Simon with a question.
NA3CW, no question.
Kilo Charlie 3, Oscar Kilo, no question.
Kilo Charlie 3, Sierra Quebec, India, question.
Kilo Delta 3, Echo Echo. Hopefully this worked this time on All-Star.
This is Alpha 3 Lima Hotel. Jim, the turkey on Gobbler's Knob. No question.
All right, I will break in again. This is AF3Z. Hey, thank you all very much. There was one time where we had the carrier, no speech or any audio. It almost sounded like an open mic, but anyway, didn't hear any audio. So if we missed you, I'll give you another chance to get in. But here's who I have now. Going back through the top of the list. W1RC, KN3I, W8CRW, WA3VEE with a question, KC3RFG, K3FF, WA3KFT, KD3BPI with a question, NA3CW, KC3OOK, KC3SQI with a question, KC3MAI, and AA3LH. Is there anyone else checking in that I missed or didn't get a chance yet? Call now. Okay, that station was just getting some sort of noise and heard a little bit of voice once you unkeyed. I don't know if, well, you wouldn't be getting in if you didn't have your PL set. I'm not sure what that was. Try it again here, and if anybody else can help me out, I'll take the help. AF3Z here. Try it again.
That was Bob. KB3Z I am trying to check in. He completely doubled with someone else. This is WA3VEE.
Hey, Bob. Is Ron correct? Are you in there? KB3Z I am, AF3Z. Am I in the twilight zone or what? Well, I've got Bob written down here. Is there anybody else wishing to check into the workbench tonight? Please call now. This is Jim AF3Z.
W3GMS Fred, no question. Good evening, all. Good evening, Jim. Thanks for taking the roundtable.
KD3EE, John in Landisville.
AB3ZIM, Bob in East Fallowfield Township. My bad, before Ron was hearing me on the input, I did not have, I noticed I had changed some things with the transceiver and noticed that I had failed to activate the PL tone. I'm here, no questions, just listening on the side, KB3ZIM.
Let me break in here. Hey, Bob, and I wrote you down when Ron mentioned it, so you'll be right after Leon, AA3LH. You give it to KB3ZIM, and then, Bob, you turn it to Fred, W3FES, Fox Echo Sierra. And then John, KD3EE, is the last one I have. One last call, then we'll get going here. Any other stations wishing to check in, please call now. All right, very good. I'm not going to go over the whole list, but after Joe, KC3MAI, then we had Leon, AA3LH, then Bob, KB3ZIM, Fred, W3FES, and John, KD3EE. So we will go down for the brief comments. We like to emphasize the question period, the question time. So just some brief comments about what you've been up to in ham radio this week. So back up to the top there, Mr. Mike. Welcome aboard from Massachusetts. And you'll turn it over then to KN3I. But Mr. Mike, it's your turn. This is AF3Z.
Thank you very much, Jim. This is W1RC. And, well, I got new radios this week. I got an Elecraft K3S, an estate sale, and boy, that's quite a jump forward. What a radio that is! I spent today fooling around with it a bit, and I had a K3 that I never used. I picked that up at some flea market, and it had a bunch of accessories in it that I transferred into the K3S. And that was a lot of fun learning how to do that. But, boy, I'll tell you, this is like a computer with an RF section is what it is. It's, but these are the radios that all the big shot contesters were using. And today they use the K4, which is even more expensive. This radio, the invoice was in the manual. It's $4,600. It's a lot of dough, and he had a fair number of accessories in it. But anyway, now that would put everything in from the K3, still lots in the K3, which I'm going to be putting up for sale at a reasonable price. I guess we don't have a swap shop on here. Maybe we should have one. Don't know. Anyways, turn it over to Jim, to John, KM3I, and the Monday night workbench from W1RC.
Okay, very good, Mr. Mike. This is KN3I, and thanks to Jim for doing the net tonight, and also Joe Stuccio for encouraging me to sign in tonight. So a lot of activity this week for me. Joe had an activity, and Jim and I took advantage of it. He drove us up to Scranton for the Father Murgas, I guess it is, but it's spelled M-U-R-G-A-S if you want to look it up on the internet. And unknown to me, but a radio pioneer, so you want to learn about him. We had a great time. Also signed up for N3FJP log file and log file of the world, whatever that's called. I'm very retrograde here, so I'm just getting my logging thing. Did a little sweepstakes operation. Worked on a ICOM 746 Pro. I have a third one now that I'm fixing up. Did some AM operation on 80 meters, 40 meters. Started with a Viking 2 CDC. I have a Valiant I started working on. T368 modification, so I dragged out of the onto the table and started looking at. And what else? That's it. So let's, no questions. Let me turn it over to CR. W8CRW, this is KN3I. Thanks, John. And yeah, very good. Jim, thanks for taking the chair tonight. And this week in ham radio is pretty normal. The only thing out of the ordinary is I was getting ready to tear my clear node apart, and I plugged it in and booted it up and did all the stuff you have to do to get it working, and discovered it's working. So that's what I'm using tonight. So the clear node is back on the air. With that, Ron, pick it up. WA3VEE, W8CRW.
Excellent. W8CRW on the net, WA3VEE over here in Westchester. Not much in ham radio this week. My goodness gracious, a lot of traveling around. Had a wedding in the family. My younger son got married middle of November. Well, it wasn't middle of November, but middle of New Jersey. And my wife and I will be heading up to Bar Harbor tomorrow for a family trip. So be back on Sunday. But rest of the family will be here at the house. But in any event, not much opportunity to do much in radio this week. Hopefully next week will be a lot more settled, and we'll see how that all goes. Especially longing to get up to the site to do some operating, some nice quiet time operating, believe it or not. Just the noise of a radio and band noise, even QRM would be welcome, that's for sure. Let's see, all very good. KC3RFG, WA3VEE.
Ron, WA3VEE, this is Jim here in Malvern, the KC3RFG. I'd like to pause and thank Jim AF3Z for hosting us this evening. And there's nothing too much going on in the shack this week here as well. Just the daily nets and normal 95 activities. About the only thing exciting was I got to get out that first night of the strong aurora and got some nice pictures of that. So it was good to, that doesn't happen very often down at this latitude, so that was pretty cool to see. Not quite as defined through the woods here as it was earlier this year, but still a really large red and orange glow in the sky. It was pretty neat to look at. So that's about it from here. So I think I will be sending it over to Renee, K3FF from KC3RFG.
Good evening to everyone on the net this evening. My week in radio. Well, I have worked on and finished an old Yaesu FT1. I guess it was a flagship type radio back in 1982. I've got that up and running. Replaced the files, did a lot of alignment, and was able to get that got quite a few QSOs on it to verify my work. That radio was $2,800 back in 1982, and that translates to about $9,000 now. So FT1 took a good stab at it. The Yaesu took a good stab at back then to, as I read, to compete with the Collins KWM 38. I think it's 380. KWM 380. And anyway, I've got a story, a quick one. It's been very windy today. Well, it was windy a couple of weeks ago, and in the evening I fired up my rig and my solid state amp on 40, and tuned as I do at low power on a tuner for best SWR, and then I turned the amp on, and immediately cut out with high SWR. Of course, I repeated it. Sure enough, it topped out. So I ended up using another antenna. But in the morning, I tried to I looked at the base, the vertical. It was a 40-meter vertical. I looked at the base. Nothing seems wrong. Everything is connected. And then I looked at the top, and I found that in the wind, the top of the 40-meter vertical, 5 feet or 6, 7 feet away, clipped underneath the wire to my off-center fed. And that being the high voltage part of the antenna, it apparently was fine at low SWR, since it's insulated wire. But at high voltage, high power, it arced over into the wire and tripped out with high SWR. So anyway, the bottom line is I never connect more than one antenna at a time on my patch panel, and if I had another rig on the other antenna, I might be having some problems. So that's it, and let me see. I'll turn it over to KC3RFG, K3FF.
K3FF. This is WA3 King Fox Tango. Okay, Renee. Very good. Well, I can't say I've been chasing DX, but it's been falling in my lap very nicely. I operate 10 meters almost on a daily basis, and we wound up getting a couple stations in Texas on the 13th, and then on the 16th we had North Carolina, New Jersey, Massachusetts, so not doing bad. And I'll say just showing up and not doing anything, and we wind up landing some nice DX stations and so forth. And we have a regular net called the Retired Group. It meets every day of the week at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on 28435. And if that one is busy with DX and so forth, for some reason DX stations love 28435, we go down band to 28333 and carry on down there. And sometimes we even get DX on that frequency. So, over to Simon, KD3 BPI, and the net, WA3 KFT.
WA3 KFT, KD3 BPI. Thank you, John. Very good. Very good. On my end, not much in ham radio. Sorry to report. I always have my mobile rig going in my car, but as of late I've been using my commute up and down Route 100 to kind of just decompress and and it'll take a few minutes. I've been working on automatic direction finders at work. I work with airplane avionics, for those who don't know, and we had some problems with the test setup. And that was a puzzler because another engineer had worked through it and said he had all kinds of problems. And I'm almost sorry to say that I did not have the same problems working through it. I didn't have any problems. So I'm a little nervous because they want to put it back into service, and I had to say that I couldn't find anything wrong with it. But not ham radios, but airplane radios. Very different. Not as interactive because, of course, I don't fly airplanes. I just mess with the radios in the lab. Still interesting, though. And I'll send it over to Chuck, NA3CW. This is KD3BPI.
KD3BPI, NA3CW. Good evening, everybody. And Jim, thanks for driving the circus here tonight. The usual 985 activities, some mobile operation, had some nice chats with TJ, and some others. Nothing monumental. At the PM/AM net, and we had abysmal conditions for that on Sunday with geomagnetic instability and all that kind of good stuff, but we got through it. It's definitely one of those things you never know what you're going to get. Otherwise, I've been doing a lot of computer work, and this afternoon it was putting in data entry for the annual interchurch Thanksgiving meal distribution that happens in the Parksburg area. And I'm doing the labels for the various meal bags in the database for who gets what and where they are and all that kind of good stuff. So finally got some information for those that are signing up. So enough from that, over to Bill, KC300K in beautiful Oxford. This is NA3CW.
NA3CW, KC300K. Thank you, Chuck. Good evening, everyone. And Jim, thank you for taking the chair tonight. Well, not super radioactive here, but doing things radio-related, I guess. Did do the usual, the 985 nets, and was not a net control for the simplex net, but it was kind of an impromptu one, and the net controls couldn't hear each other, so I used the beam and worked as the relay. It was interesting how well the beam and the SDR radio worked, because the west control was running 5 watts from Elizabethtown, and the east control was running 8 watts from Lidditz on a HT into a J-pole. So it was an interesting test of the beam and the SDR radio, and it definitely made a difference. So that's about it for operating. Working in here in the shop, just finishing up the rack cabinet. Chuck will appreciate this. I have, 28 biscuits to glue up all at once and set an end panel, and it's all done. So I was going to do that tonight, but it's not happening. But that's about it here. So I'll turn it over to Wayne, KC3SQI, KC300K.
Thank you, Bill. KC300K. This is KC3SQI. Not a whole bunch in the operating, just mainly trying to get things put back together and running again on all of my new antennas on the new mast, and looking at future antennas that I'm looking at or thinking about. So got to keep that going, and taking care of the dogs and taking care of the boats, taking a lot more time than radio right now. So with that, I'll go with turn it over to KC3MAI. This is KC3SQI.
KC3SQI Wayne, thank you. KC3MAI Joe in Downingtown. Hello to all. Jim, thank you for sitting in the chair. So Saturday, as John said, he and I and, pardon me, and Jim AF3Z took a field trip up to Scranton and attended the 120th anniversary of the first Overland transmission of wireless telegraphy from Wilkesboro to Scranton, and we all enjoyed that tremendously. We had a chance to see what this gentleman was all about, Father Murgas, an amazing Renaissance man who not only understood science well, but did a lot of other things like botany and architecture and so on and so forth. So really enjoyed that tremendously. Had a chance to eat some good pizza on the way back home. And of course, enjoy each other's fellowship as well. So that was that. And then I also started, as many of you know, started studying for my CW, started studying my letters and listening to them, and I would just give myself a grade of fair at this point. I'd like to say that it's coming down a little bit quicker, but I'm going to be a little bit more patient with myself and just remain tenacious as I slog through these right now. So that's the extent of my week. I'm going to turn it over to AA3LH Leon, KC3MAI.
Thank you, KC3MAI. So I would say to you, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Very simple. CW. All right. Well, Jim, get that heater cranked up. It's cool laying under this bus, checking this bus out. That duct tape up here in the air line is still holding, so you're not leaking any air to the brake lines. That's doing good. The wire, the crate hanger wire holding exhaust pipe up, that's doing real good. So I'm going to get out from under this bus and run inside, have the heater turned on. It's cold out there. And I'm a summer person, not a winter person, by the way. What I did in radio is I tore my HS section of my shack apart, and I took out the manual tuner that I have. I had an automatic tuner laying here for several years, and I put it up, hooked it up, and see how I like it towards the manual. And I really like my manual tuner, but I'm getting to like his automatic tuner too. And I took my antennas, I took one antenna off my antenna switch, one coax, and I hooked it directly to the radio. I am told that I can get line loss in the antenna switch, and taking it out, I get a lower SWR than I had with that in. So maybe I want to replace that switch in the near future with something else. But the main antenna that I really use is hooked to my radio by a barrel between my 3-foot coax that runs out to the antenna switch. Well, it's off the antenna switch, and there's a barrel hooking to my LMR 400. I think I have 318 coming off the radio. I think that's what it is. That's so much stuff around here. Our brain has to think what it is sometimes. Is what I did, and so far I like what I see. So I'm treating myself, getting ready for Thanksgiving Eve, when I will probably be up most of the night trying to run radio. I've been doing that for years to make sure everything works right. All right, he goes over to Mr. Bob KB3Z. I am AA3LH, running for the heater on the bus.
Roger that. Thank you, Leon. This is KB3Z. I am Bob in East Fallowfield. Good evening, everybody. Doing some work here in the shack, and not much going on in radio. I was hoping there would be, because I was originally slated myself to go with the other gentleman up to the Father Murgas event in northeastern Pennsylvania on Saturday. But those plans were squashed when my wife announced that we were going to her home area outside of Atlantic City to go to dinner to mark my father-in-law's 90th birthday. Well, that yank pulled the plug on the trek up to Northeast PA. Yes, I will echo that sentiment. Anyone who cares to take the time, I would urge you to go on their website. It's the Murgas, M-U-R-G-A-S, Murgas Amateur Radio Club, actually based in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and read all of the fascinating biographical information about that gentleman. Quite an amazing individual, that's for sure, and very much a radio pioneer. And ironically, the venue in Scranton, there was a celebratory transmission made between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, King's College of Wilkes-Barre, University of Scranton, and that location, that QTH for that station, W3USR, I grew up on the hill less than a mile away in Scranton, Pennsylvania from there, so I was very anxious to go there and quite disappointed when I had to cancel my intention to go up there. So anyway, but again, to all my radio amateur friends, I urge you to look that up, Murgas Amateur Radio Club, and find out about that. Other than that, not a lot of radio stuff going on for me, and very much hope to get back into it. And it's always my plan every year, as the cooler weather comes, head indoors, and that's when I ramp up my amateur radio activity for sure. Hopefully augmented this year and I say this every year, but I'm making progress this year, is to get some sort of a wire up in the air somewhere, somehow, to work 160 meters during the, let's call it the 160-meter season during the fall and winter. So with that, 7-3 to everybody. I may be listening on the side for a while, but I got plenty of stuff going on. I'm going to try to put to bed before the evening. With that, this is KB3ZIM, and I will be turning it over to Fred, W3FES 73.
KB3ZIM, W3FES. Thanks, Bob. Always a pleasure. Thanks again for taking that roundtable, Jim. Not much going on, just handling another affair share this week. Just getting ready for a Thanksgiving road trip, so very busy week. I don't know who gets it next. I was doing other things, so I'll pass it back to Jim AF3Z from W3FES 73. All have a good evening. W3FES, I'll be clear. Log me off there, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Fred. It goes over to John, KD3EE, AF3Z.
Thanks, Jim, and am I sounding okay? This is KD3EE.
Sound wonderful.
Thank you. That weirdo digital noise was my all-star node misbehaving between my radio and my node. I don't know, it got there over the internet, but it was all garbled. This week I saw a great YouTube video about APRS bots. You send a message to it, it responds with information. Particularly interesting ones I found were, they had like 8 or 9, but there's an ISS bot that you could just say next, and it will tell you, it'll look at like where you've been beaconing, and tells you when it's next passing over and at what angle, so that was kind of neat. And there's another one, MPAD, Mike Papa Alpha Delta, which you can give it all kinds of commands, like call sign lookups and location reports to email. So you can just say, like, tell people where I am, tell this email address where I am, or get the weather report, or find another call sign, and figure out where they are, even though you didn't necessarily hear their beacon. So some cool APRS stuff. I listened to a little bit of the sweepstakes, and I was way too lazy to try to communicate all that large exchange QRP sideband. It would have been a struggle, so I didn't participate. But I did run out to a local park yesterday, and I split 6 1/4 meters of speaker wire so that I'd have 12.5 meters of non-resonant dipole, and use the rest of it as the feed line to operate a little bit out in the park. I got it. I connected it right to the radio. No balance or any ununs or anything. And I got 20 meter tuned. I got 40 meter tuned barely. But I was able to operate FT8 at 2 watts and get to Africa and Europe. So that was kind of cool. FT8's nice that way because it offers a good kind of quick test. You can look up a PSK reporter and see where you're going and maybe make a contact or two. My next experiments with that is I'll throw the 4-to-1 balun in there and or the 9-to-1 and see if it does better. So back to Jim AF3Z. This is John KD3EE.
Very good, John. Getting to Africa isn't too bad. All right, thank you all. Let me make a quick call here. Anybody else wishing to check into the 985 workbench, please call now. This is Jim AF3Z. All right, not hearing anything. My week was pretty quiet, but the highlight was going up to Scranton. That was a lot of fun. And one thing those guys didn't mention, the one professor there, Frizzell, I think is his name, Frizzell, something like that. And he started the group HAMSCI, HAMSCI, that does some scientific experimenting via ham radio. And through that, they got a nice chunk of money. And this is University of Scranton Ham Shack. Is no shack. It is gorgeous. Got all these big windows. They can look out over Scranton, and got some nice ICOM radios in there, and amazing little shack. So anyway, another highlight of that trip. I have 3 questions down here. Ron, WA3VEE, Simon, KD3BPI, and then Wayne, KC3SQI. Anybody else think of a question that you didn't mention before, AF3Z? Right, very good. So, Ron, over to you, WA3VEE, AF3Z.
Very good, AF3Z, WA3, and the net, WA3VEE. Question has to do with solar panel installation. I wish Barry were on here, KD3X, because I think he'd be able to answer this question pretty well. But in any event, the question came up over the weekend about types of solar installations and the best one for minimal, if that's even possible, minimal RFI for HF operation. And my understanding, very quickly, real quick background, is that there are 2 types of basic configurations. There's one where the solar panel has a micro inverter installed right on each panel, and there's another one where there's a central inverter. The voltage is taken collectively from all the power is taken collectively from all the panels and fed into a central inverter. And I just wanted to know, does anybody have any experience about which one is better or worse, pros and cons? And they're referencing an article, sorry to be so long about this, but it's some interesting background. In 2016, there was a QST article on this, and the fellow who wrote the article went with the central inverter so that he can control the RFI. So bottom line is, with all that background, are these 2 systems still viable, or are they still out there, and which one is the best one, if anyone knows, for controlling RFI, either one or neither? AF3Z, WA3VEE.
Thank you, Ron. So, put it out there. Anybody have experience, knowledge about solar panels, especially relative to RFI and the microinverter on each panel, or a central inverter that pulls together all of them and then does the switch. So, anybody want to speak to that? This is AF3Z.
K3RFG.
Thank you, Jim. Go right ahead, AF3Z.
AF3Z, KC3RFG. Thanks, Jim. Ron, my neighbor has a solar panel installation across the street that's only about 3 years old, and he didn't have a choice. They are now, all the panels have the microinverters, so he's got little RFI generators spread out all over his roof. The thing I don't know, and you're right, the article was correct, a central one is more controllable because you're only controlling the RF source from one spot. But I don't know if they're prevalent anymore. That's how the first systems were. I think you're only going to find more of the individual inverters now, but you have to check on that. Obviously, better to have it in one spot than spread out all over the place, and you really can't, get at those to do much with them. Whereas the old style was just DC power lines down to the central inverter. So obviously a better system. I don't know if you can still get them though. Sorry about. I don't know which system, if it's still prevalent or not. Hopefully you can still get that. That would be the better one, the central one. KC3RG, back to net.
W8CRW.
Anybody else have experience or want to add to our discussion here?
W8CRW.
There's CR.
Hello, the group, Ron. I would second what Jim is saying, and the solar panel installer companies are the ones that like the microinverters because it's easier for them, and that's what I believe. So you can still get inverters. I just bought an inverter, but the installation is different, and you have to deal with the other issue you have to deal with is high voltage, because typically you connect all your panels in series. Anyway, I can't tell you about the RF issue, but that's my 2 cents worth. Back to net.
Thank you, CR. Anybody else want to speak to it? This is AF3Z. All right, all puns intended. I think we have, I don't know if we stumped the panel, but we got all the wisdom out of the panel. Back to you, Ron, for any follow-up.
Very, very good. Yeah, the thought came up around here, we'll put some solar in to be a little more independent. And I said, well, first of all, the house faces east, and secondly, the front roof faces east. The back is shaded, and I want to put antennas in the attic, so that kills that right off the bat. So even if they weren't generating RF, like RFI, as they do religiously, as a rule, that would be out of the question here. So this just kind of puts the final golden spike in the coffin, if you will. So just wanted to confirm what I read and what I saw, that they are really, truly RF generators. And there's really no real way to mitigate when you've got, as you put it so well, Jim, they've got these little RF generators all over the roof. That's ridiculous. Well, very good. Well, thanks very much, and appreciate all the input. That's excellent. Pretty much confirms what I was thinking. AF3Z, WA3VE.
All right, Ron, very good. Thanks for the question. That was an interesting one. All right, Simon, KD3BPI, over to you. This is AF3Z.
AF3Z, KD3BPI. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, thanks for running the net tonight. It's good so far, and thanks for your question, Ron. Cool to listen in. My question is just sort of a very broad one. I'm hoping to get my general ticket before the end of the year, and just was wondering if there were any important points to look at in studying for that, like things sort of, focus on this, but maybe not this, just to try to speed things along, in general, of course. I'll send it back, AF3Z.
All right, Simon. Well, I can tell you I haven't taken a test since 1979, so I'm not going to be much good for you. Anybody have experience with the tests and the pools and the questions and all that stuff to give Simon an idea of where to focus or emphasize his study? AF3Z, anybody speak to that?
W3VEE, of course.
And Joe on CW. Okay, very good, Ron. I was thinking you might know something on this. AF3Z, go ahead, Ron.
3Z, WA3VEE here with the group. Jim, with your indulgence, let me go back and forth for a couple rounds here with Simon. KD3BPI, WA3VEE. What are you using for study material?
WA3VEE, KD3BPI. I am using a website. It's not hamstudy.org. Maybe it is. I haven't logged on in a little bit. It's not hamstudy.org. It's something else that generates. It just draws from the current question pool and then makes them all multiple choice. And you just hit submit and it'll grade, and tell you what you missed. Back to you, KD3BPI.
It's great, except I consider that more of a ham-cram than a real study, not to be critical. Your best bet, and what I would be doing if we were doing this back to college, Gordon West, look up Gordon West on Amazon, General Study Guide. Get that, $29, best thing you can ever do, and go through that. A lot of this stuff, I could tell you, from my experience and exposure to what you know and the background and so on, you already know a lot of this. So I would highly recommend. That's really truly a better way to do it, because you get more than just the sterile treatment of question by question. This is why this is right. Okay, next question. This is why this is wrong. He'll give you a little more background, so you'll be a better ham. You'll be much more competent, frankly. When you do get your general, much more knowledgeable, even though it may take a little bit longer. I would not necessarily, personally, of course, obviously your choice, I would not necessarily put a hard time on it, but just I would emphasize knowing the material, especially the theory part. Of course, everybody learns the rules and regulations. That's sort of a rite of passage. And the SEC wants to make sure that you knew it at least once. I still have the band plans right here in front of me. I've got 3 or 4 cards that I use when I'm on the air. So you just have to know it once, the rules and regulations. But truly, really understand the theory that they present in the general stuff. If you have questions, we can certainly get together offline. Very experienced at this stuff, as you well know. Back to you, Jim. AF3Z, WA3VEE. Simon, I'll send you a link.
Okay. All right, John, go ahead. AF3Z.
WA3KFT. I actually have the extra class study guide, Element 4, by Gordon West. And I'll say water over the dam. I already have my extra. But it's not just a question and an answer. It's a question with the possible answers, and then it explains why the correct answer is correct on every single question. So it gives you some background and educates you about the question. It's not just a question and an answer. It's a question and an explanation of why the answer is the correct answer. That's Gordon West. And there are 3 books. One's the tech, one's the general, and one is the extra class. And I had my license long before I got the book, but I still read the book because it's a great memory refresher. This is WA3KFT.
Very good, John. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on the question pools and studying for the extra? Was it extra? No. You said general. Sorry about that. Extra will come later. Anybody else want to speak to that? AF3Z.
C3RFG.
I had RFG, Jim, and also Wayne then. So Jim, take it away and then hand it over to Wayne. KC3RFG, AF3Z.
3Z, KC3RFG. Thanks, Jim. I don't want to throw any damper at all on Ron's approach to the all the knowledge that you should learn to be a ham. But in my individual case, I used hamstudy.org because I wanted to pass the test, because I wanted to get on HF. And I knew that later on I would continue to enjoy learning the theory and all the other things, but I didn't want to have to study theory that I didn't need for the test just to get the ticket. So there's different ways of looking at it, but I knew that later on I was going to learn the extra theory and always be interested in learning extra stuff. So it's just another way of looking at it. Yes, Ron is right. You would do well to study all the theory and stuff that you need, and you'll be a better rounded ham for sure. But in my case, I knew I was going to pursue that anyhow, and I just wanted to get on HF and really start enjoying radio. So that's what I pursued in my case, and ham study, as you know, only gives you information and questions that are actually on the test full, so you don't waste any extraneous effort studying what you don't need to pass the ticket. Back to net, KC3RFG.
Very good, Jim. Wayne, over to you. KC3SQI, AF3Z.
Thank you, Jim, AF3Z. Yeah, I was also going to, say about the same thing as Jim. You do want to learn theory, but if you want to be able to get on the radio early, AARL has if you go to their website, you can find a QA for the test that just gives you the answers and things, and you can go through, of course, for the FCC rules and misnomers, but we won't go there. For the FCC stuff, it's just memorization anyway. But for the other ones, if you want to get on the air and start working using your general class license and working with HF and things, the AARL is free, and it's a very good, it's the questions that come out of the system, and it gives you all the questions, so you have to go through all of them and do some learning that way. And then, as Ron said, then go back and get the West book, and you can then, while you're doing and running the radio, you can also learn the theory behind why it's working. So that's another option there, and it's really up to you. Do you want to learn the theory first, or do you want to learn the theory afterwards? And I can't
tell you what you want to do. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jim, AF3Z. This is KC3SQI.
All right, thank you, Wayne. I'll turn it back to you there, Simon, KD3BPI, AF3Z. Any follow-up from you? Go ahead.
AF3Z, KD3BPI. No, not much follow-up. To be honest, I feel like all the bases were covered pretty well there. Ron, I will look for, I think I just got a text from you. Yeah. And about the Gordon West book, and I heard John KFT second that as well, so I think I will be getting that. I admit that I did more what Jim RFG did. Sorry, Jim, I didn't get the prefix to your call there, but that's exactly what I did for my technician class. I just crammed and went for it, and it worked out, and I'm very glad to be on the air, but I'm just, for HF feels like I want to know a little more before getting into it. Of course, you know, the 2 meter, 70 centimeter, pretty cut and dry. It's line of sight. Height is might, but hearing everyone talk about DXing and all that, seems like HF is a different animal. And yeah, thanks Wayne for your extended comments, KC3SQI. That was kind of just put the bow on it from my perspective, and I feel like I have a good bit to go off of. So thank you all, and I'll send it back to you, AF3Z. This is KD3BPI.
All right, very good, Simon. Thank you for the question. And John KFT's comment, I think, was a good one for me, talking about reading the book to refresh, and that would be good for me. Like I said, last test was 1979. So anyway, all right, now Wayne, back to you for your question for tonight. KC3SQI, AF3Z.
Okay, thank you, Jim, AF3Z. Yeah, I'm looking to step up a little bit from my Wyndham dipole. It's done the job for me for about 4 years here, but especially when you're using it up 10 meters, 6 meters, the pattern off of it is so wide and spread out and so many lobes that trying to figure out what it's doing is not really helping me or doing anything for me. So I'm looking at probably going with a hex-beam, and to do that I now need to run rotors, and I've got a mast, and they do make a mast mount for the Yaesu rotors, but it takes about a 20% on the weight and wind velocity and wind load. So that almost puts you into a different class of rotor. Instead of the 450, you've just about got to step up to the 800 if you're going to have it for long. And so I'm looking at other ways to mount the rotor, and one of those that I'm looking at is to put unistrut off to the side of the mast, and then put a thrust bearing at the top of the mast. And I'm wondering if anybody has any experience with doing something like that. KC3SQI, back to net.
All right, thank you, Wayne. being a dipole, never had a rotor person, I'm not going to help you too much on this one either. But somebody out there who has more experience with these things, can you help out Wayne? This is AF3Z.
Fox Tango.
Hey, John?
Alrighty, this is WA3KFT. I have two towers. One has vertical antennas on it, so I don't need a rotor. The other one is stacked with 4 beams, 6'2", 220, and 432. So I need a rotor there. My very first attempt was an Alliance tenor rotor, and it had a separate vertical thrust bearing for it. That was fine, but it was all at the top of the tower. The method that I have now is the antennas are at the top of the tower, but the mast runs all the way down through the middle of the tower, and about 12 feet off the ground is where the rotor is. But above the rotor, separately mounted, is a thrust bearing. I got it from DX Engineering. They have 2 different sizes depending on your pipe. And it's a long mast. Actually, it's in sections, but it's long. And it's down near the bottom, so it's easy to get to if you have to do any servicing. The thrust bearing carries 100% of the weight. There is no weight on the rotor at all. So the thrust bearing takes care of all the vertical weight. And in fact, you can actually take your hand on the mast and rotate the antennas. The rotor is below that thrust bearing, and the rotor only has to turn it. It doesn't have any of the weight. And that's the way I set mine up. Now, it's easy for me to get to the rotor. The thrust bearing is a little higher up. Don't have to service the thrust bearing. But occasionally I got to go do something with the rotor. You also want a rotor that has a brake or something that'll prevent the antenna system from freewheeling. My rotor does not have a brake, so Mother Nature likes to turn my beams around. And I can actually go up, grab the mast, and rotate it back to where it belongs. So not a problem that way. And I can actually zero my azimuth with the rotor control box. I could do it either way. Of course, the rotor control box, I don't have to climb any ladders or anything. So
all right, John, you said don't have to climb any ladders or anything, and then you dropped out. I assume you timed out, but did we miss any more after that?
don't have to climb any ladders to get to the rotor. Nice and convenient, down by near the bottom of the tower. Like I said, the thrust bearing takes all the vertical weight, and it's a marvelous bearing. And like I said, you can grab the mast and rotate it physically yourself. So the rotor only has to rotate and brake, and it doesn't have to carry any weight. And you can actually use I'll say a very inexpensive rotor for doing something like that. Have no idea what the cost is. DX Engineering sells the thrust bearing, and I think it comes in 2 different sizes. And of course, I know they do sell rotors. So that is my recommendation. Get a thrust bearing and use it. WA3KFT.
Right, thank you, John. Yeah, I've heard of other people doing that, putting a thrust bearing above the rotor. Any other comments on Wayne's installation of the rotor on his tower antenna? AF3Z.
W3GMS coming.
Go ahead, Bill. AF3Z.
Wayne, I think we've had the discussion before about trying to come up with ways to mount the thrust bearing up above a fixed mast. I was looking at the G800, and you're right. When you use the mast-mounted option on the G800, you're reducing the wind load rating by about half, so it's only good for about 9 square feet. And looking up hex beams, they can be up to 12 square feet of wind load. So if you did the just a mast-mounted rotator, it probably has to be the G1000. So you're actually getting up into some pretty good money. So KC3OOK, back to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anybody else with comments? All right, Wayne, do you have any follow-up questions or anything for any of these helpful folks? AF3Z.
Thanks, Jim AF3Z. No, I have some ideas of how to put the thrust bearing on. That I can probably do, but the issue is that I've got a tilt-over mast, and so now it becomes how far down on the mast I can actually go with the rotor. And then if I do that, then I'm going to have 2.5-inch pipes going up to the top. So, but at least it gives me some more things to think about and other options that I might do. So, okay, thanks everybody, and I will go back to thinking about it again. As you can probably tell, I'm thinking real hard about it because the smoke's rolling around here. So, okay, back to you, Jim. AF3Z, this is KC3SQI.
Okay, Wayne. Very good. Yeah, the tilt over adds another wrinkle to it. No puns intended if there was one there. All right. That's all I had for questions. Are there any other comments or questions anybody has?
This is KN3I.
Go ahead, John. AF3Z.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if Leon's trying to tell us that he doesn't like cold weather, I don't know. I think he's a liar because he told me that he used to climb under his trucks and thaw out his frozen air brakes with a Zippo lighter in the wind by cupping his hand around it. But I don't know. Well, maybe that argues for why he doesn't like cold weather. Anyway, 7-3 everybody. Enjoyed it. Have a great night and stay warm. KN3I, back to AF3Z.
Thank you, John. He's also a couple months at least older than he used to be, too. That might figure into it. Any other comments out there? I'm afraid to do that. It gives Leon a chance to jump in here. But any other comments or any other stations wanting to just check in, say hi, you've been listening? We'd be glad to hear from you. This is AF3Z. right, not hearing anything. So, we'll close down the workbench for tonight. Thank you all very much for checking in. It really makes it all worthwhile here. And big thank you to Joe, W3GMS, for making the 985 repeater available for the workbench. You're invited to use the repeater often. Joe really appreciates seeing it used. So great way to show that you appreciate that gift of 985 to the amateur radio community. And hope to hear you again on Thursday. And according to the schedule, I think Phil, KC3CIB, is up for this week, if that works for him. So that's at 8 o'clock Thursday night for the roundtable. So this concludes the workbench for tonight. Feel free to stick around and continue the discussion here. Have a good night, a great weekend, and thank you all very much. 73. This is AF3Z.
Great job, Jim. Ron, are you still there? WHCRW.
HCRW, WA3VEE, yes, sir.
I was getting ready to send you an email, and your email address appeared to have added someone. Is that correct?
Oh, my goodness, no. It's the same email address it's always been. Are you using the one on QRZ or my direct email?
The ones that I've been using for whenever, the direct email, it's you and someone else now.
Oh, no, it should only be me. Interesting. Yeah, that should only be me. I don't know what's going on there, but other people have sent me emails with no problems, so I don't know what's going on. Almost sounds like a group thing. But why don't you go ahead and send it through the WA3VEE@ARRL.net, and that should roll over. But that's very interesting. And in that exchange, tell me what the other party is there, because that's not a good thing. My email is my email alone. That's it.
WA3VEE@ARRL.net. I will send it to you, and the other, well, it'll be in the message. So, talk to you later. Well, the point that I was saying to send it a message was, there's a company called Signature Solar.